Okay, this is our first video in our new topic, which is equations. So some general notes about solving equations. So far, we've been simplifying expressions, and we've talked about this. Expressions do not contain an equal sign. And then when we simplified expressions, there were two things we had to make sure we did. And the first was that we distributed. And then after we distributed, or if there just wasn't any distributing to do, the next thing we did was combine those like terms. Okay, and once things were combined, then that was a simplified expression. And when we were simplifying expressions, we often did not just get a number as an answer. I mean, sometimes we did, but most of the time we had, something with an X and then a constant. So a lot of our expressions had 2 or 3 pieces to them. So now we are shifting gears into equations, and equations do have an equal sign, and we are able to solve them. So expressions we simplified, equations we solve, and that means we're going to get a number answer. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is not actually even solving them, but really checking our solutions. Okay, the good news about the good news about equations is that you really should be able to tell us if the answer you are giving is correct, okay, because you can plug it in and see if it actually works. Okay, so when you solve an equation, you should always try to check, meaning you're going to plug it in and see if it makes sense mathematically. So our steps for checking. Okay, it's usually helpful to rewrite the equation, especially as our equations get a little bit longer. Okay, you're going to want to rewrite the equation first just to kind of give yourself some space to do the check. Next, you're going to plug in the answer you got for the variable, and then you're going to do the math. Now, when we do a check and we're doing the math, we're going to follow order of operations. Okay, so any parentheses first. Okay, there shouldn't be any exponents in here. We don't have to worry about that. But then any multiplying, dividing, or adding and subtracting. Okay, so here we have a couple equations, and they're giving us a number answer. So it's like someone solved it, and this is what they think the answer is. And we are seeing if it is indeed the solution to the equation. So for the first one, says, is 4 the solution to x plus 9 equals -5? Okay, I'm not going to rewrite it because I have plenty of space to do it right now. But we're going to take that 4 and we're going to plug it in for our x. So I'm going to say 4 plus 9. Does that equal -5? Now I know that looks weird, okay, because I just put a question mark on top of an equal sign. Okay, so it's a little bit small, but essentially I did this. And the reason we do that is because we're checking. We don't actually know if that's the answer. Okay, we don't want to write bad math. So that's why we put that question mark. It's almost as if we're asking a question. Does 4 plus 9 equal -5? And on the right-hand side, there's nothing to do. It's just a -5. But on the left-hand side, I can do that addition. So 4 plus 9 equals 13. And 13 equals -5 does not make sense. In fact, I'm going to put a little slash through my equal sign to say 13 does not equal -5, which means when we plugged in 4, it didn't make any sense. It means 4 is not the solution. At this point, we don't know what it is, but we know it is not 4. For the next one, it says, is -2 the solution to 4x equals -8? We're going to take that -2 and plug it in for the x. So 4, when those things are squished together, I'm just going to fix my arrow there. When the 4 and the x are squished together, that means multiplication. So I'm going to say 4 times -2. Does that equal -8? Okay, I can do that math on the left-hand side, and I end up with -8 equals -8, which is true. So that means that -2 is the solution. We plugged it in, it worked, it made sense, it's the answer. And the last one, is 3 the solution to x over 6 equals 2? We're going to take that 3 and plug it in for our x. So 3 over 6, does that equal 2? And do not get fooled here. Okay, this says 3 divided by 6, which essentially is 1/2 or 0.5. Okay, it does not mean 6 divided by 3, which would give us 2. But here, we have 0.5 equal to 2, which does not make sense. So I'm going to put a slash mark to say not equal to, which means for this one, that 3 is not the solution. Okay, so that is how we are going to plug things in and check. Okay, it's a little bit annoying, but it really does help you decide, did you find the right answer or not? Okay, last couple things on the front of this page. So the goal when solving equations is figuring out what the variable is. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to get the variable by itself. Okay, there's going to be numbers that are on the same side as your variable. Okay, you want them to all go away and get the x or whatever variable you're solving for by itself. You might hear us say, isolate the variable. Isolate the variable. Okay, well, we know by now what isolation is. Okay, but isolate the variable means get that variable by itself. And the most important rule when solving equations, as my lights turn off behind me, is that we have to do whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. Okay, we think of an equation as a balance, a scale. Okay, and if we put something on one side of our scale, it tips. But if we put the same exact thing on the other side of the scale, it balances back out. So that's why whatever we do to one side, we have to do the exact same thing to the other side. And when we show our work, we're going to make sure we show that we're doing both the same step on both sides of our equation. Okay, and finally, when solving equations, okay, you might remember this from last year, we need to use opposite operations, okay, which we are going to call inverse operations. Okay, when we are solving equations, we work backwards. Okay, so one pair of inverse operations would be addition and subtraction. They go hand in hand. And then the other pair is multiplication and division. They go hand in hand. Okay, so those are going to be important as we move into actually solving our equations.